Hi, I'm David Wobrosh, attorney with the Legal Aid Society's Low Income Taxpayer Clinic. And I'm joined today by Matt Long from the United Way of Greater Cincinnati's Free Tax Preparation Program. We're continuing our video series on taxes, and today Matt and I will discuss how to spot some tax-related identity theft issues and how you can protect yourself from identity theft. I'll talk with you today about what you can do if you learn that you're the victim of identity theft and how to look out for identity theft. But before we get started, and as always, I'll remind you again that you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. We'll save a little bit of time at the end and answer them. So let's get started. And we're here again to talk about identity theft. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask the question, what exactly is identity theft? Well, identity theft, simply put, is when somebody uses your social security number and your name to impersonate you. Identity thieves may use your social security number in order to work under your name and under your identity. Identity thieves may also use your information to open bank accounts, take out loans, to file a tax return and get a refund, or to apply for credit using your name and your personal information. Now, if that seems scary, it is. Tax identity theft and identity theft in general is on the rise. You should be well versed in knowing how to spot issues and signs that you may be the victim of identity theft. And there may not be immediate signs that you have been the victim of identity theft, but there are some clues to look out for. Some of these clues include, one, you file an electronic tax return and receive a notice from the IRS that they already have a return on file for you. Two, you receive a letter from the IRS saying that you've earned more money for a particular year and you don't recognize the income that they say you earned. Three, you receive a letter from the IRS about taxes for a year that you never even filed. And lastly, you receive a letter from the IRS with information that you never requested that the IRS sends you. So if any of these situations happen to you, you may have been the victim of tax-related identity theft. Now, a lot of these are spotted around tax time, and nobody is better here to talk about filing returns than Matt Long with the United Way. And he'll talk to you about how to spot some potential identity theft issues when you go to file your taxes this season. Matt?
Thank you, David. Like David mentioned, if you receive a notice or a rejection, as we refer to it, because someone filed a tax return with your name and social security number, you may be the victim of identity theft. But not all tax rejections mean identity theft. First, I'll talk with you about some of the more common reasons for a tax rejection. It's actually not uncommon for a taxpayer to file a return and then be notified by the IRS that the IRS is unable to accept that return. This is known as a rejected tax return or simply a rejection. Rejection notices appear nearly immediately for taxpayers filing an electronic tax return. Electronic filing is the fastest and securest way to file a tax return. Plus, if there's a mistake causing a rejection, you can take immediate steps to fix your tax return instead of waiting for the IRS to notify you by mail of a mistake. Most importantly, even if you receive a rejection notification, you can still file a tax return, so do not give up. In some situations, taxpayers receive this notice for a fixable reason. For example, if your social security number is incorrectly entered on your tax return, you'll receive a rejection notice. Or if you even misspell your name, this too can lead to a rejection notice. Taxpayers should thoroughly review their information on all tax returns. Even if you visit a paid preparer or visit a United Way free tax preparation location, taxpayers must review their return before submitting it electronically or giving consent to submit it. While reviewing your tax return can decrease the chance for a rejection notice, there are other reasons a return may be rejected which can be more complicated and can include identity theft. One problem you might encounter is that someone else files a tax return claiming your kids and your return gets rejected. This type of rejection occurs frequently with taxpayers with children who are separated from former partners or taxpayers who care for dependents, such as grandparents. Unlike when someone uses your name and social security number, the IRS does not technically consider someone claiming someone else's dependent as identity theft. Fortunately, you do have options if you encounter this issue. You should still file your tax return. Even though the return was rejected, you can still mail the IRS a paper copy of your return. The IRS will send you a letter requesting all documentation showing that you are eligible to claim the dependents on your return. Once you submit these documents to the IRS, they will make sure you are eligible to claim the dependent and then accept the return with dependents in the future. I'll turn it back to David to talk with you about what to do if you encounter any of these issues.
Thanks, Matt. So tax time is a fantastic opportunity to spot identity theft issues. And if you suspect that you are the victim of identity theft, there's a few steps that you should take. So if you suspect that you've been the victim of identity theft, one of the first things that you should do is freeze your credit with each one of the 3 credit reporting bureaus. And this will help prevent identity theft or identity thieves from taking any additional activities using your name to apply for credit. Now, I mentioned 3 credit reporting bureaus, and which ones are these? First is Equifax, second is Experian, and third is TransUnion. And I'm including a link in the chat, and it's from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It includes the phone number and the website for each one of these bureaus. You'll need to reach out to each one of these separately to do this. You should also place a fraud alert on your accounts for each one of those 3 bureaus to alert them that there's been identity theft. Next, you should file a police report with your local police department and make sure that you take note of the police report number. You can use that number to request a copy of the report for your records. You should also gather as many documents, including that police report, and you put them all together so that you can show that you were the victim of identity theft, not just using your word, but using the documents as evidence. And you can submit these along with the ID theft affidavit to the IRS. When the IRS receives the ID theft affidavit and the materials, they'll investigate and they'll take appropriate steps to reverse the tax consequences of that identity theft. Now, the IRS may also issue you a PIN number if they determine that you've been the victim of identity theft. And this is simply just a specific number to you that will be mailed to you at the beginning of each tax filing season. And you have to include that PIN number on your return every year. That way, only you will know that PIN number and only you will be able to file that return. So what's some other ways to prevent identity theft? Well, frankly, it can be very difficult to prevent identity theft, but there's a few other steps that you can do to help prevent it happening in the first place. And really, there's 3 main ways to do this. First, well, it's that IP PIN, that identity protection PIN number I just talked about. People who have not already received an IP PIN from the IRS can actually request an IP PIN on their own. It's a fantastic way to prevent identity theft, even if you've never been the victim of identity theft in the first place. Like a text message or an email authentication code, those IP PINs act as a way to validate that return. And applying for an IP PIN can be done in one of 3 ways. First, you can apply online with the IRS. Now, we're going to drop a link in the chat here with the IRS webpage on how you can apply online. Second, if you prefer snail mail, you can also complete and mail the IRS Form 15227. We're also going to include a link in the chat to that form as well. Also note that this is available not just in English, but also in Spanish. Third, you can call the local Taxpayer Assistance Center at 844-545-5645. 940 to set up an in-person appointment to help you apply. And aside from just applying for yourself, you can also apply for an IP PIN number for dependents, and that will help prevent anyone from claiming them on a tax return in the future. Second, you should regularly pull your credit report. It will allow you to look for any suspicious activity using your name and social security number that might pop up. Make sure you review it very closely to see if there's any accounts that have been opened recently that you don't recognize. You may not know it, but you can request a free copy of your credit report once a year, and you can do this at annualcreditreport.com or by calling 877-322-8228. And of course, we're going to be putting that link in the chat for your convenience. Finally, file a return. By filing a tax return every year, you can prevent somebody from coming in and filing under your name and social security number. It also allows you to spot any issues like a rejection that show that someone has already filed under your name and social security number. And if they do, hopefully you know what steps to take here. Now keep in mind that you may be eligible to file a free tax return through the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, and you can make an appointment by calling the United Way of Greater Cincinnati's 211 line to schedule an appointment come tax time. That's about it for today, folks. And I know identity theft can be scary, it can be frustrating, and unfortunately, it's on the rise. We've given you some tools today to spot it and to deal with it. However, if you suspect that you have been the victim of tax fraud or tax-related identity theft, you can also call us at Legal Aid. Legal Aid's Low Income Taxpayer Clinic may be able to assist you. So give us a call at 513-241-9400. I'll turn it over, see if we have any questions here. It doesn't look like we do. So again, thanks everyone for joining us here. That's all for now. We'll be doing some regular Facebook Live chats throughout the filing season. We'll talk with you as always about those important tax topics. So make sure you follow us on social media at Cincy Legal Aid. See you soon.